Hi everybody, Jo here again. Lovely to have you join me. I just wanted to show you Lavinia are now stocking the multifarious in a 4x4 inch and it's a lovely size. So I thought we'd do some designs with this. Anyway, this is the design I'm going to create today and I've actually put it on a 6x6. And as always, I've decorated the back of the card and again on the envelope I have put some white Posca. Again, that's fine because it's permanent when dry. If this gets wet, if it snows on it, doesn't matter. Permanent ink, Posca permanent when dry. Now, I'm going to create this today in shades of brown because monochromatic is just one colour and tones of that colour. And I love brown because it's vintage. But just to show you, I created this one again in almost like the true monochromatic, what we think of in tones of black. So for the underneath, I used my graphite in my elements. And then for the stamping, I used my Nocturne for the main stamping. And then for this little bit of background stamping, I used Morning Mist. Now, what I like about a design like this is you can then just alter it slightly to make any occasion. So very quickly, I had a quick go. And this is using blues, and this I've incorporated the little rose stamp instead of the berries, and this could be a thank you card because let's face it, after Christmas, we need thank you cards. So we're going to go for the vintage tones, sand dune, pine cone, and we're going to start with truffle. And so I'm going to start my circle mask, and I want a bit of space here, so I'm going to go there. As always, blend it in the lid. And it's very much a tickle. If it's a new ink pad or if you've re-inked your ink pad, make sure you do blend it in the lid, please. And hold your brush gently. Remember, a nice tickle. And you're not going to go all the way around. Think of a clock face. You're going to stop at 11 and round here at about 5. When you've done that, have fun looking at which stamps you're going to use. I'm going to use the fir cone branch, and even on, this could be used as an autumn design, but we've got so many lovely berry stamps and branch stamps, Pine cone for this. And again, it's the same for all of them. I use the darkest of the colours, and I'm just going to stamp this once here because I just want it almost to be the bones of the design. And then from there, you can decide exactly how much more stamping. So, star pine. Now, for this, first of all, I'm going to ink up the whole of the stamp, including the branch look, and just extend this branch here. And don't worry, if it doesn't quite meet up, you've got your brown fine liner pen. But also, by the time we've finished, you won't even notice that bit. Now this, I can decide how far round I want to go. So actually, I'm going to stop there. Because if this was your thank you card, you could bring in the little rose stamp. We've got little mini flowers. Look at your stash and see what you've got. We've got so many choices. So what I'm thinking is the berry. We'll have one there, just finishes that nicely. And I like one at the end here, again, to finish that. And then in between, I'm thinking we'll have one there, and then maybe turn it round, one, say there, then one there, and then that just leads me nicely to have one there, and then it's one on that side. So happy with that. But what I look at now is, do I want a little bit more of this star pine down here? So what I'm going to do is give it a wipe just to get rid of that ink. And then using the corner of my ink pad, I'm hopefully just going to ink up the fronds and not the actual. I don't want, if I can help it, the stem look. I just want those two fronds. Now, it might be you'd rather put a bit of masking tape on. I'm into living dangerously. And just if you use that corner, you get used to just inking up the end bits. There we go. And it just gives us that shape. Now I look like I need just a little bit there. So if I just ink up, yeah, that just finishes. I'm happy with that. Don't want to overcook it because we've got one more stamp to bring in. And this is from the winter foliage, and this is where our Sandra June comes in. And what I love about this is she just fills the space. She's a good filler. So look here, I can extend the shape just to continue that shape. And again, when you think this stamp can be used all year round. So as I say, really, it's just the berry, maybe adding some flowers for a different time of year. You know, it might be you want spring cards. So just alter the colours and really swap in that berry stamp for a floral. And I think you could use this design a lot. And once you start making it, you know, you'd be surprised again. When I just want the edge look, sorry, I did it without telling you. You see, I'm just used to batch card making this. I could make it all day. I don't want the full length. So again, go for the corner and then I just get that little bit there. And I can decide how much look I want without it coming right across. So again, here, look, I just want a little there. And that little bit just fills that space. So I just look at the design and I'm happy with that lovely shape. What I do want is my sentiment. So I've gone for Noel and I'm going to ink the whole thing up in the lighter colour, the sand dune. And then come in, and again, it's like the ink pads, it's just how you use them. So with this, just catching that top edge, I catch the bottom of the Noel look. So it just catches that bottom bit. And we can come in, and then we've got that lovely Noel in that two-tone. And as I say, you could alter this and use it so much. Right, so we give that a blot like we do. And now's the time to add a little bit of colour. So I'm going to come in with my Modulars pencils. You know I love these. And I've literally just picked out a dark brown and a medium brown. I don't even know if it's, excuse me, if it's the same browns, any two browns. So 32 and 30. And my suggestion is, so on the pine cones, with the lighter colour, I'm just going to colour the base. You know I like to do this. I don't colour the top bit because I'm going to add my white highlights there. So it's easy to add them just on the card as it is. My darker brown round the edge of the berry. The lighter brown coming in. Then I'm just going to leave that little space where I'm going to add my white highlight. For me, it's been a game changer, this. I just find it so much easier adding the white highlight if I've remembered to leave a little space. Sometimes, yes. So for those of you that have just asked, sometimes I do forget. And I just put it over the pencil, which is fine. But it does work better for me if I just leave a little space. And also it gives me an idea of what it's going to look like. But you have to have your wits about you. If you're talking and chatting, it is easy to forget. And you know me, always talking. So, and if you have stamped over or one of your florals has gone over, make sure you colour that bit and you'll disguise it. So another question we've had, which I'm just going to bring in, is about the clear wink of Stella. Now, the clear wink of Stella, I always have a couple of these on the go because you know me, I can't live without certain things like Pippin. I have got 2 or 3 Pippins. Mini Holly, I've got a couple of those, one with a long stem, one with a short stem. Now, Wink of Stella, again, I have 2 on the go and I have to write on them what they are. Now, I have noticed mine has got a silvery tinge here, but it works perfectly well. It does come out clear. If I squeeze it and put it on my mat or just on a little block here, Oh, I need a new one in there. Look, it won't squeeze out. But it does have a bit of a silvery tinge. Now, I believe some have got a bit of a gold tinge, but they work just as well. So for me here, look, I'll show you with this one. There's not a lot left. This one needs a refill. But again, when I go round... But I would always test it. So again, if you're worried how it looks, give it a little test and use it on a scrap piece of paper. And again, do remember to clean the nib. But as I say, I found, although this looks quite silvery, if I lift up my card design, I'm hoping you can see it dries with that lovely, just that clear. But they do look slightly different. But mine... they work perfectly well. So I hope that helps. If you're unsure, test it, because you know they all come different. So do have a little test. Other question to clarify. I'm being good. I'm trying to remember all these things. Pens. Mangaka pen, white pen, fabulous for white highlights. Not ideal for snow. The nib will come out. So in my opinion, white highlights with Mangaka, Posca, snow. But that's just me. So I'm just going to add my little white highlights on the berries where I've left that space, and then also just where I didn't colour in on these 3 fir cones. And the Mangaka is such a beautiful, really vibrant white. For me, it's probably the whitest I've seen, and certainly for snow. Now, you could add snow here. I'm not going to. What I am going to do, a little bit of Stickles. Now, you know me, Stickles is a glitter glue, and I've got an empty Wink of Stella, a really old one, and I use that for Stickles because mine spits. Well, I say spits. Mine also likes to bung up. If it bungs up, it's just the glitter inside. Get yourself an unbunger, aka hat pin. And then hopefully, but it may spit when you've done that or come out in a big blob. So I would always put mine on my mat. And then for me, this empty Wink of Stella, which I use to paint my Stickles on. And if I paint it on, look, I can get it exactly where I want it, because I don't want it everywhere, just over the star pine. Because obviously I've got the Wink of Stella on the berries, so I don't want to over sparkle it, but that's enough. For me, the reason I use the old Wink of Stella is because what I find is this, look, when it's closed, the nib will be fine to use next time. It doesn't go hard, whereas a normal paintbrush, if you left the glitter glue on, it would dry hard. But even this, look, this was a clear, and this has got a silvery tinge, a silvery gold tinge. So, like I say, all these... Oh, last thing, Posca Snow. But, you know, if you've got any queries about any of the products, just email us at customer service at Lavinia Stamps, or just drop me a message. You know, the design team, the creatives, we're more than happy to test things out for you, to help you. That's what we're here for. Right, a good shake. I'm just going to tap it here, and I hold my Posca quite close, look. If you find your Posca seems to get absorbed in the card and it doesn't show white, it's just because your ink isn't dry. And if it's a dye-based ink, this is only permanent when dry. When it's wet, it can get sucked and absorbed into the card, into that ink you've already put on. So if that happens, my tip would be go and get yourself a cheeky brew and biscuit, come back, when it's dry, add your Posca and it'll show up beautifully white. And you know, in my book, any excuse for a cheeky brew and biscuit can't be wrong. So there we go. You've got a very quick, easy, versatile. So there's the black. Here's the one that I've matted. And this one I put on cream, look, just for a change. And then finally, up here, the design, similar but in blue, and mixing the stamps up. You know, so much you can do. And sometimes, even if this just sparks your idea with the shape, and gives you an idea of how to start. Now, I know there's quite a few of you that are going to do this and run with it, and I can't wait to see what colours you choose. I'm thinking purples. If your neighbour's got a purple tree, my neighbour's just done a lounge in golds and deep blue. So I'm thinking this, I'm going to do monochromatic, but just in deep blue, then with some gold. Oh, can't wait. Right, so that's homework for me then. And don't forget, ladies and gents, homework for you. So take care of yourselves, and I'll pop back again tomorrow. Much love and hugs from me. Bye for now.